wasting their time. But what happens when a jet built outside that elite circle not only matches expectations, it shatters them? What happens when a nation that was never supposed to play in the big leagues starts rewriting the rules of the game? The answer comes roaring in on a single engine, armed to the teeth and carrying a name that now makes even the most confident Western analysts think twice: the JF-17 Thunder. For decades, the global fighter jet market has been dominated by an elite circle of Western manufacturers selling their aircraft for eye-watering sums under the assumption that superior performance could only come with a superior price tag. The JF-17 Thunder has turned that belief on its head by proving that a capable, modern and combat-ready aircraft can be developed and deployed without the need for a trillion-dollar budget or decades-long procurement programs. Built through a collaboration between Pakistan and China, the JF-17 emerged not as a vanity project, but as a practical, purpose-driven response to a very real need: an affordable yet powerful multi-role fighter that could defend national airspace and hold its own against far more expensive adversaries. What's extraordinary is that the aircraft doesn't just save money, it delivers results that force even seasoned Western defense analysts to grudgingly acknowledge its value. In military terms, cost-effectiveness is often an underrated weapon because it allows nations to deploy more assets for the same expenditure, maintain them without breaking defense budgets, and upgrade them regularly without the suffocating political and financial debates that plague the West's big-ticket programs. Where the West has been embroiled in endless controversies over aircraft like the F-35, its ballooning costs, missed deadlines, and spiraling maintenance expenses, the JF-17 quietly achieved what it set out to do: get airborne, get armed, and get into operational service. It challenges the unspoken monopoly of Western jets by giving smaller and medium-sized nations a credible alternative, one that doesn't require them to mortgage their future for the sake of air defense. This is not merely about undercutting prices. It's about challenging a mindset that equates military capability with extravagant spending. The JF-17 sends a blunt message to the arms industry. The days when they could dictate prices and force dependence through supply chain control are under threat. Nations that once thought they had no choice but to buy from the West now see another path, one where sovereignty isn't compromised by supplier politics, where spare parts and upgrades aren't used as leverage in diplomatic games, and where innovation is tailored to the actual needs of a country rather than the demands of profit margins. This shift is profound because it's not just about selling jets. It's about rebalancing the very structure of military power in the modern world. By breaking the monopoly, the JF-17 has opened the door for a more competitive, multipolar defense market, one where capability is defined by ingenuity and efficiency rather than by the number of zeros on an invoice. For years, Western analysts confidently believed that advanced air combat capability was the exclusive domain of their own high-tech fighters. Machines like the F-16, the Eurofighter Typhoon, and more recently, the F-35. They saw the development of these aircraft as a pinnacle of aviation engineering, achievable only with vast resources, cutting-edge infrastructure, and decades of accumulated technological know-how. The unspoken assumption was simple: if a jet wasn't coming out of the United States, Europe, or a handful of other established aerospace powers, it couldn't possibly match the performance standards necessary for modern warfare. The JF-17 Thunder has blown a hole straight through that comfortable narrative. This aircraft has proven that a compact, lightweight, and relatively inexpensive platform can still deliver the kind of speed, maneuverability, weapons integration, and combat versatility once thought to be the exclusive trademarks of multi-million-dollar Western jets. When the JF-17 took to the skies, skeptics dismissed it as little more than an export experiment, a plane that might work on paper but would falter under the real demands of modern aerial combat. Yet time and again, through live exercises, operational patrols, and real-world engagements, the JF-17 has shown it is more than capable of going toe-to-toe with its costlier rivals. Its agility in dogfights, the integration of beyond visual range missiles, advanced targeting systems, and a rapidly evolving avionics suite have placed it in a performance class far above what Western critics ever anticipated. What makes this even more remarkable is that it accomplishes this without the bloated complexity that often hampers Western designs. The JF-17's engineering philosophy is rooted in pragmatism, designing for actual mission requirements rather than flashy, over-engineered features that sound impressive in sales brochures but add little to battlefield effectiveness. By redefining what's possible in the $25 to $35 million price range, the JF-17 has forced defense strategists to reconsider long-held assumptions about the relationship between cost and capability. In an era where air combat increasingly relies on speed of deployment, adaptability, and the ability to upgrade rapidly in response to emerging threats, the JF-17's streamlined design and upgrade-friendly architecture stand in stark contrast to Western aircraft that take years to integrate new systems. The result is a jet that doesn't just challenge the dominance of its more expensive competitors. It calls into question the entire Western approach to fighter development. This is not simply about matching technology. It's about proving that innovation can emerge from outside the traditional power centers of military aviation, and that the rules of the game have changed for good. When the JF-17 Thunder began to secure export deals, it wasn't just a commercial milestone, it was a geopolitical statement. Selling fighter jets is never as simple as offering a competitive price and signing a contract. It's a high-stakes arena where diplomacy, alliances, and pressure tactics often matter more than technical specifications. For decades, Western powers have leveraged their dominance in the fighter jet market as a tool of influence, ensuring that buyers remain politically aligned by controlling access to spare parts, maintenance, and upgrades. Countries seeking independence from these constraints often found themselves with no viable alternatives, forced to accept whatever conditions came attached to a purchase. The JF-17 disrupted that cycle by offering not only an affordable and capable aircraft, but also a level of political flexibility that the West rarely allows. Nations like Myanmar and Nigeria, and more recently others expressing interest, have chosen the JF-17 despite knowing full well the diplomatic pressure such a choice could invite. This is where the aircraft's significance extends beyond the runway. It represents a form of strategic independence for its buyers. By turning to Pakistan and China instead of Washington, Paris, or London, these countries are signaling a willingness to break from the traditional orbit of Western defense procurement. That shift unnerves Western policymakers because it erodes one of their most reliable levers of international influence. The success of the JF-17 on the export market also speaks volumes about trust in its capabilities. Buyers are not merely attracted by its low cost, they are convinced that it can perform in the scenarios that matter most to them: border defense, quick interception, ground attack missions, without being dependent on politically sensitive supply chains. This growing confidence challenges the assumption that the West holds an unshakable monopoly on advanced military hardware. Each new sale is more than a transaction. It's a ripple in the global balance of power, proving that emerging defense manufacturers can compete in an arena long reserved for a handful of elite nations. Even more significant is the fact that these deals survive despite behind-the-scenes lobbying and pressure from traditional suppliers, meaning the JF-17's appeal is strong enough to outweigh the diplomatic consequences. That resilience in the export market has transformed it from simply being a military product into a strategic tool. one that is subtly shifting the landscape of international defense relationships in ways Western analysts never expected. When the JF-17 Thunder project was first announced, many Western analysts dismissed the idea that Pakistan, even with Chinese collaboration, could keep pace with the rapid technological evolution that defines modern fighter aircraft. They assumed that, at best, the jet would remain frozen in its initial design, functional for basic defense roles, but incapable of integrating advanced avionics, modern radar systems, or precision-guided weaponry without outside help. That assumption has been dismantled block by block quite literally as the JF-17 program has advanced from its early versions to the more capable Block 2 and now Block 3 variants. Each upgrade cycle has brought substantial improvements, from in-flight refueling capability to enhanced electronic warfare suites and helmet-mounted display systems. The addition of AESA radar, long considered a hallmark of elite Western fighters, has elevated its situational awareness and targeting capabilities to a level that makes it a formidable adversary in both beyond visual range and close combat engagements. These upgrades have not been slow, bureaucratic processes bogged down by endless committees and overextended budgets. They have been deliberate, efficient, and responsive to operational feedback from actual pilots in service. This iterative approach allows the aircraft to adapt quickly to evolving threats, something that many Western fighter programs, weighed down by political infighting and massive contractor dependencies, struggle to do. More importantly, the program has increasingly leaned on indigenous development and local manufacturing capabilities, reducing reliance on foreign suppliers and giving Pakistan a level of self-reliance in military aviation that few thought possible. This is not just about building a better jet. It's about building the capacity to sustain, improve, and innovate without being hostage to the political moods of global powers. Every new feature integrated into the JF-17 challenges the outdated perception that only the wealthiest nations with the largest defense budgets can produce cutting-edge aircraft. It demonstrates that technical excellence can be achieved through focused investment, strategic partnerships, and a clear vision of operational needs. In doing so, the JF-17 has transformed from a budget-friendly fighter into a symbol of technological resilience, showing that the ability to upgrade and evolve is not the sole privilege of the West. This adaptability has turned what was once underestimated into an aircraft that demands respect, not because it followed the traditional path to power, but because it carved out its own. The emergence of the JF-17 Thunder has done more than introduce a new fighter jet into the global market. It has altered the psychological landscape of military strategy in the West. For decades, Western defense planners operated on the comfortable assumption that innovation in aerial warfare would almost exclusively come from within their own circles or from close allies who shared their defense ecosystems. The idea that Pakistan, working with China, could develop, deploy, and continually improve a fighter jet that challenges this monopoly was not just dismissed, it was considered implausible. Yet the JF-17 now stands as living proof that advanced capability is no longer tied to Western design bureaus and budgets. This realization has an unsettling effect because it forces a re-evaluation of long-held strategic models. If countries outside the traditional aerospace powers can create competitive fighters at a fraction of the cost, the West's ability to dictate terms in both commerce and conflict weakens. The psychological impact is amplified by the fact that the JF-17 has succeeded not by mimicking Western jets, but by following its own design philosophy, leaner, more adaptable, and tailored to the operational realities of its users. In strategic circles, this has sparked quiet but growing concern. If Pakistan can do it, who's next? This question carries weight because the JF-17 has demonstrated that the barriers to entry in advanced military aviation are lower than previously thought, provided a nation combines smart partnerships, targeted investment, and an iterative approach to development. The aircraft's existence also changes the deterrence equation. Opponents facing a JF-17 equipped air force can no longer comfort themselves with the assumption that they hold a technological edge by default. The presence of advanced radar, beyond visual range missiles, and modern electronic warfare systems in the hands of a nation that Western strategists did not expect to field such capabilities forces them to adjust both tactics and procurement priorities. This shift creates strategic ripples far beyond South Asia, as other countries reassess their own procurement decisions and consider moving away from expensive Western platforms toward more cost-effective alternatives. In effect, the JF-17 has punctured the narrative that cutting-edge air power is an exclusive club. The West now has to contend with the reality that capable and strategically disruptive platforms can and will emerge from places they once overlooked. That awareness is perhaps the most profound impact of all, because it reshapes how future military competition will unfold and erodes the long-standing psychological advantage the West held in the skies. The JF-17 Thunder is more than just a fighter jet. It is a statement, a challenge, and a symbol of a shifting world order in the skies. It has broken the monopoly of expensive Western jets, redefined what modern air combat can be, defied political pressure to win international trust, evolved technologically with relentless efficiency, and forced Western defense planners to confront a reality they once thought impossible. This aircraft is proof that innovation, determination, and strategic independence can rival, and in some cases surpass, what the world's most powerful defense industries have spent decades building. The JF-17 is not just flying missions. It's flying in the face of an old belief system. And with every sortie, it is proving that the future of air power will be written by those bold enough to challenge the status quo.